Thursday morning, NBL Now, of course, thanks to Code Sports. For all the latest in NBL news, head to codesports.com.au. Joel Peterson alongside NBL legend Cal Bruton. Cal, very good to see you, mate.
Hey, good to see you too, but how you going?
Very well, very well. Let's get into it. We've got plenty to talk about. I'm keen to talk Sydney Kings with you. We'll talk about tonight's game, the Bullets and the Taipans. Both of those teams need a win, Cairns desperately so. But let's talk about last night because we got treated to a very interesting game as part of Ignite Cup basketball. Tassie jumped out to an early lead and then Perth came rolling on home to get the better of them at MyState Bank Arena. Before we talk sort of Will McVeigh injury and that kind of thing, what did you make of the way that game played out, and particularly Joluwala Chul Jr.'s performance to really take over that game?
Yeah, I think without McVeigh, Tasmania is a different beast. But give credit to Perth. They really played a good all-around game with Joel just rocking. I mean, he was too tough down in the paint. But also, they put a little hot sauce with the pepper on it because he was blazing outside, hitting his first 5 shots and I think 5 3-pointers. I think that was kind of opened things up really for Doolittle and the rest of the team. And I thought really was really tough. He hit some great shots in the crucial times, and he looked like a player to play on the rise for the future.
And Bryce Hamilton was awesome for Tassie and just couldn't lead them across the line. I'm interested in Elijah Pepper. I mean, someone who had such a good NBL 1 West season, like the numbers were absolutely astonishing, and probably struggled to find his role over the first couple of weeks of the season. What do you think back-to-back good games will do for his confidence and his role going forward?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. He's a shooter, and he doesn't have a conscience, and he says that the coach is giving him the green light as soon as he gets in the game to put him up. So when you have a player like that, it can do a lot for his confidence. I remember coaching David Close back in Perth, and he was a youngster coming into the comp for the first time. And as soon as I asked the question to the rest of the team, does anyone think that David Close can't shoot the basketball? And no one raised their hand. I said, there you go. You got the green light. And he was one of the key components in us winning that first championship for the Perth Wildcats.
He's going to have the green light for a long time in his career, I think, Elijah Pepper. The McVeigh injury, I mean, not a lot has come out about that, and you'd imagine the Jackies will be pretty cagey about the way that goes going forward. But, I mean, we've seen this a lot. How crucial is he? How big an impact could this have if Will McVeigh's to miss a bit of time?
Oh, he's the biggest impact. He's Australian center. He's a former NBA player. My son CJ took him and the big fella up in Brisbane through all their pre-trainings when they were starting off as rookies. Put them in the individuals and all that. And I see him as a key component for the Jackies going forward. And without him, they're not the same team. I mean, that puts a lot of pressure on Bryce and Tiger, and they got a crew that can get numbers, but at the same time, McVeigh offers all that defensive pressure in the middle, and he also is their best rebounder. So yeah, they lose a lot without him.
Of course, Tassie's got Johnson coming back soon from injury as well. So TJ Starks will go out. We didn't see a lot of him last night. Before we move on to other stuff, I'm interested. So Perth, depending on which side of the fence you sit on, if you're a Wildcats fan, it seems like there was a lot of concern. To a lot of neutrals, it was kind of like, oh, no, they'll be okay. Where were you with the Wildcats, and did last night's performance change your mind on them, or are you pretty settled with sort of how you view them?
Yeah, I'm pretty settled. I think they've been very consistent in terms of the way they use their personnel. I believe really is now kind of narrowed that down even a little bit more, with his rotations. But, they got a great balanced squad, and they're doing it without Windler, which is an interesting one. And now they're bringing in a new import as well, Duke Jr. So I got a feeling that, Wildcats, as always, they're going to be knocking at the door. And, with the big fella in the middle, he looks like he's on a mission. I just watch, I'm a big body language guy. And I watched him at the end of the actual game, and I seen him go dap up everybody on the team, walking through and hugging the other Sudanese big fella, Aquera. Yeah, you got Aquera right on point. And now you got two big ends, both sitting, 6'10" above, and they going after the boards, and that's where I thought they made the difference.
Yeah, they're going to be fun to watch throughout the course of the season, especially once they get Windler. And then we see David Duke Jr. for the first time on Sunday against the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. So what he can provide to that Wildcats team will be very interesting indeed. Let's talk about tonight's game. So the Bullets and the Taipans at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. They met earlier in the season. It was a really close fought game up in Cairns. They go back to Brisbane. There's been a little bit of chat this week, and Damon Lowry said on overtime that JaVale McGee should be in the MVP conversation. If JaVale McGee is in the MVP conversation for the team that was sitting last before we went into last round, Cal, how on earth could Casey Prather, who is second in the league in scoring and keeps playing well when Brisbane win, do you think that Casey should be part of those conversations in terms of the line behind Bryce for MVP?
Well, I don't pay a lot of attention to Damien Lowry shout-outs, but at the same time, I see that, yes, Prather should be in that conversation. If you're talking about teams that's not winning and still, got individual players showing out. But, Prather's been very consistent. And to think of what he went through to get back to this point has been a tremendous accomplishment. So, yeah, I'm always high on Casey. I liked him since he first came in the league. When he came back, obviously he was carrying the injuries that he had to rehab for. But once he got going, yeah, he's one of the toughest to guard in the league. So I believe he should be in that conversation.
What do you think has changed in his game? Like, he looks like a player who's just in complete command at the moment. What do you see?
I see that he's confident in his physical assets now. Again, when he first came in the league, he was jumping out the gym. Now he's more cagey in when he jumps and the timing of all his jumps. He can rebound, he can defend. He's got all facets of the offensive game. The 3-point, he can go inside and post you up. He's got mid-range. I love his game. I sit down and watch him. He keeps me on the edge of my seat like Bryce Hamilton and Bryce Cotton do. I sit there and I just reminisce about, I can pull off that one back in the day. But he's very impressive, Casey, and I think he's a quiet leader too. You don't see much talk out of him. He just goes about his business and does it well.
Where are you at with Brisbane at the moment? Because they'd been hanging around in a lot of these games. Excuse me, they hadn't been blown out. And then Southeast Melbourne come in and kick the doors off them with 26 offensive rebounds last time in Brisbane. But this is a team that's shown a fair bit of fight. What have you made of their start to the season under Stu Lash?
Well, first of all, I don't know who's coaching that team. they got Vantage at calling the plays. They got D-Mac kind of revving them up. I see Stu Lash as the organizer behind it all, and but at the same time, I think the different voices kind of keep them a little bit unbalanced. They don't seem to have or to know who that real go-to guy is. I think they should be working more through the center. Get it to him every single time that he's down there. But at the same time, Prather, when you kick it out, you got to create space for him. And you also have who's the other guard? Jalen.
Yes. Yep.
Adams. Yeah. So Adams, when he really steps up his game, he makes them a complete unit. And the young kids that's coming on, Divas and the big fella Dukas, I like them. I think they're bringing energy, and so it's a matter of time now. But hopefully they don't fall too far out of the pack. They're sitting outside the 6 right now. They need to stay close. This is a big game for them. If they lose the Cairns, or I think that kind of puts them in a bit of a ducktail, and they got a new import to bring into the team as well. So now you're starting to juggle and see who fits and who plays and what have you. So they're missing Norton too. That's probably one of their biggest losses, not having that leadership there.
Yeah, so no Norton, no McDaniel still. Hopefully they're not too far away. And then Dakota Matthias comes in tonight for his first game. Talking about injuries, the Cairns Taipans, I mean, oh my Lord. They might get Jack McVeigh back tonight, and we certainly hope to see him back out there soon. But now Alex Higgins-Titcher goes out with a wrist injury, so Mojave King's been signed as an injury replacement. They've seen these two teams like they've been at the front of the line for the injury bug all season. What do you need to see from Cairns tonight in that performance? Is it a matter of don't win and the rest doesn't matter, or how do you see it for them?
It's tough. I'm sure Coach Ford is reaching deep in his bag right now to find some sort of motivation, new speech to get those guys to play as hard as they can and play smart. To me, they don't play the smartest game. They take shots when there's no rebounding. Defensively, they don't communicate really well. They got lapses where teams are scoring numbers on them. So when they had that big win, I forget who it was against, but they came home with a wet sail. You thought, oh, gee, okay, that's the real team there. But, when they turn that right around and get spanked, well, you go, what's going on? So I got a feeling that, losing Tishka is going to be a tough find. But I like Mojave, but I'm not sure how often he's been playing or how long he's been, how game ready he is at this point. But I'm impressed with what he can bring to the table because he's a scorer. He can shoot the basketball, and really, their perimeter game hasn't been really, really tight.
Yeah, the 2 wins for Cairns this season, 1 point over Brisbane back in round 2, and then the 3 points over Sydney was the other game that they won. Since then, they lost to Adelaide by 31, Perth by 3, Melbourne by 35, Adelaide by 5, Perth by 32, and Melbourne by 27. So it has been a tough run for them. If they get Jack McVeigh back tonight, hopefully that turns around. Who do you see winning it?
I see Brisbane. Yeah, I see Brisbane getting this one. They're more desperate. They want to stay in touch. They got more people to come into it as well. And the confidence can't be sky high up in Cairns right now. They're more hopeful that they can pull things together.
Yeah, the desperation around Brisbane's a good call because, as you said, if they lose this, then they really find themselves in a bit of a hole. Let's talk about the Sydney Kings because they've been one of the great perplexing teams across the course of this season so far. As an ex-coach, when the Sharks start to circle like they are in Sydney at the moment, what's that like? Can it change the way you coach? Like, can that seep into the way that you approach things?
Well, for me personally, no. I'm a coach the way I coach. As the term goes, the outside noise stays outside. You got to huddle, get your group really tight, and get them surrounding each other, and it's all about us. But at the same time, that Goorj is a legendary coach. He understands this. He's been around for 40 years, as he tells it. He's always had great teams, or great personnel, I should say. And he's been able to mold them into a great unit. And obviously, 6 championships tell the story. But at the same time, you got a brain sitting behind the team in Bogut, who knows in and out how to motivate. I just don't think they're playing through the right pieces at the moment. When I look at the backcourt, I love Kendricks and I love Delly's, his attitude. But I think they should be reversing roles. I had a similar team in Perth with Mike Ellis being my Delly and I had Ricky Grace being Kendricks. And I felt that Kendricks can outrun Delly dribbling the basketball up and down the floor. And Delly playing such a strong game, I reckon he'd be more effective around the basket because combined between Bull, Kendricks, and Delly, they shooting like 36, 37%. And Kendricks is all go. I'll tell him to just get busy, right? And he can create for the other guys as well. But Delly seems to slow them down. I don't think they're playing fast. And they're not going through their 2 highest percentage scores. Tim Soares, who's shooting like 60% from the field, and Cook shooting 56. They need to be, looking at shots. They need to be creating more opportunities for them because both those guys are effective when they're shooting the ball, and they open up things for the others.
Do you think that would be a difficult conversation to have with the guards? Like, how would you approach that?
I would go to Kendrick and say, you know what? Grab Delly and tell him you want him to run. Get in the lane. I'm going to find you. And if I don't, I'm going to the hole. You going in, play bully ball, get the rebound, right? Because there's not many guys that can out-tough Delly. I don't think. Matter of fact, I'll put it down that there's no guard that can out-tough him. And there's not many that can keep up with Kendricks. But the roles are reversed. Kendricks is he's not in his third gear. He's still kind of cruising through the 1 and 2nd gear and turning on when he can. If you put him in 3rd gear and tell him to go, now Delly's running the floor, getting a head start, and now you got a combination with Xavier filling the lane. You got Bull filling the lane. You got all these guys, these athletes that can actually be in those lanes and create a fast-paced environment, which I think would be beneficial toward that team. And then when they want to go half court, let's go through Xavier. Let's go through Swords. They got 60 and 56% effective scoring. Let's get them the ball where they need to have it and let them go.
DJ Vasiljevic said on NBL Now yesterday that he thinks that the offense should be running through Xavier Cooks. How would you get the most out of Xavier? What kind of role would you plug him into? What kind of spots would you be getting the ball in to get the most out of him?
Well, he's a point forward. He handles the ball better than any big in the league, the way he can put it on the deck. He obviously doesn't take any shots really outside the key. And to me, I'll have him shooting 500 of those a day, just a mid-range, just pulling up and stuff, because he's got good technique and everything. It's just a matter of having confidence. But that's the way I would switch it. I'll let either Kendricks or Xavier pushing the ball. If he gets it off the board, get a lane, Kendricks. Deli you off. And now he's running. Now he can kick it to him and go to the post where he's most effective. Soares stretches the floor. He can be out on the outside. And that's the way I would play it. But I think in my whole coaching heart of thinking, I would definitely put the ball in Kendrick's hands first and foremost, and forget the point guard, two guard. Just let Deli get out and do what he do best. If he's close to the basket, he can back down most guards and put up a good shot. But right now he's shooting 30-something%. That's not good. And particularly if he's still trying to knock down outside shots when they kick it back out to him. It just doesn't look good to me.
So they got a big weekend ahead. They're in Brisbane on Saturday night, and then they're in Melbourne Cup Eve on Monday night against the now undefeated or still undefeated United. If the desperation for a win, so they're 3-5, the Kings. Can the desperation for a win sort of change the approach, or do you think Brian Goorjian's too experienced to let that bother him?
He's not desperate. Goorjian knows the long season, and he's got to build up. His teams usually come home with a wet sail, and for the most part, guys are still getting used to each other. It's still early days, I feel, but at the same time, you got to make those adjustments. And I don't think he's panicking at all. He'll be batting down the hatches, like I say, keeping the outside noise on the outside and building up the confidence within this group. Most of them are not shooting the ball well. So I'll be having them in the gym on the individuals as well as the team and making sure they get plenty of shots up and the shots that they will be taking in the game and where they can best be utilized and then press the buttons and let them go.
Yeah, it could be good fun if they can put it all together. So the rest of the round, so Thursday, of course, tonight, we've got Brisbane and Cairns. Tomorrow, Illawarra and New Zealand. That's at the Wynn Entertainment Centre. Saturday, Tassie go to the Silverdome to take on the Snakes before Brisbane host Sydney at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. Sunday, Southeast Melbourne, Perth at John Cain Arena before Adelaide take on the Hawks in Adelaide. And then that game we mentioned earlier on Monday is Melbourne and Sydney at John Cain Arena. What of that really captures your imagination across the rest of the weekend? Is there one of those games or a matchup or a team that you're really looking forward to seeing across the course of the round, Cal?
Well, Adelaide. I think the Adelaide game is another big one. They starting to find their little selves now, and obviously Bryce being Bryce is starting to realize that, he's got these weapons around him at every single position, and now he can just do what he does. He can create because he's so unselfish, but he can also be a bucket getter. And it seems now they've turned his opportunities up to go get yours and let everyone else surround themselves around you. And Cheatham he's awesome. I think he's that him and the big fella, Isaac.
Yep.
Isaac is now finding his feet. So now you got a true center, you got a nice forward, and you got your PG. DJ, of course, is going to slide in where he does. He hit that big shot down the stretch of last game, which made me feel that now his confidence is coming up. Not that he loses it, but his confidence is coming up another level. And the only thing they got to do a little bit better, I think, is defensively. They need to really, really buckle down in the guard position, making sure the other guys don't get off. Because that's when I think the tide turns, when the other guys are starting to score on their guards and the big fellas can't keep up the pace.
Yeah, they're a great team to watch, and they're going to be good fun on Sunday against the Hawks, that is for sure. Cal, always good to talk to you, and great insights, and we look forward to hearing more from you as the weeks go on.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
NBL legend Cal Bruton with you on NBL Now, of course, presented by Code Sports. For exclusive access and insider analysis, you can head to codesports.com.au or download the Code Sports app. More NBL Now coming as round 7 comes closer.